Hello, welcome to the Black Salt Mirror. I will be doing a tarot and oracle reading for you today for whatever wants to come through, needs to come through. These oracle readings aren't for everyone, and not all of them are for everyone. Sometimes there's something in there for you and something in there for somebody else. And it's important that you just take it all in, decide what's meant for you, what's not meant for you, and sometimes what's not even for you right now, but maybe later. Daybreak. Something is getting light shed upon it. There's something that's going to turn out to be much bigger than you'd initially thought. You notice the horse up here is one size, and then there's another horse back here. And it could be painted that way to represent perspective, because these horses, I think there are two of them, are farther away and standing next to this large creature. So it could be the same size as the horse in the foreground, or they could be smaller, because every other figure in this painting, and I think he paints these, but they're all smaller than this big guy. They're all different sizes from each other. And sometimes when you're big, you stand out, but you can also see above things that other people can't. He's the one that notices the birds. He's the one that's looking up at the sky and the sunrise. And what you notice is unique to you. What stands out to you is unique to you. And how you stand out to others can be very special. It could be that it was something that caused you a lot of grief in your life because you didn't like to stand out, you didn't want to stand out, you didn't want to have it constantly pointed out to you that you're different. But the way that you're different is what's going to allow you to see things that others don't, and to see things in a different way. That was two that wanted clearing and all. It's kind of a sentence there. Everything's being cleared. Clearing all. The thing that stands out to me about these two together is neither of them have mouths. They don't have noses either, but the mouth is what stood out, because the mouth is how you speak. However, that doesn't mean you can't communicate without a mouth. It simply means that your way of communication is going to be alternative to spoken language. I spend a lot of time with animals and they communicate very effectively. So do small children. I used to work in a nursery, and pre-language children have a very unique way of communicating. They do a lot of body language and facial expressions, but they find a way to communicate. And some of them are hesitant to start using language because they don't have the command of it that they have of the effective communication that they've been using for their nonverbals. And it's a hard switch for them. And they'll hold back until they feel like they can express themselves properly with words. Both of these figures are checking something out. This one has something in its hands, possibly the universe. And this one is being brought something in the form of an egg. I'm also drawn to this swirl here in the plant. This is a sacred nature swirl. You see them everywhere. A sacred geometry. It could be significant for someone if you want to look it up, or if you've been researching it lately. The idea of sacred geometry. I think Da Vinci talked quite a bit about that. It says that there's divine timing at play right now, and you are being brought something beautiful. And it's not something insignificant, it's actually something very big. Both of these things are life. The egg hatches into life, And the universe is what creates life as well. So it could be something that shapes your universe or that's deeply important to you on a fundamental philosophical level, but of the nature, like why you're here. It could be a family that you've always wanted and didn't think you could have. It could be fertility. Or it could just be you hatching into a new life, another part of you. In many cases, it's your inner child, because that is the part of you that hatches anew. It's not something that you lost. It's not something that you grew out of. Sometimes you put them into stasis and you work on very quickly developing your adult self, because that's what you need to stay safe and survive. That's what you need to get through. And the child doesn't get to be a child. The child doesn't get to have whimsy and be free and play and experience things through a child's eyes, because you had to grow up very fast. And they're saying there's going to be something that comes back to you now from your inner child. There's going to be a part of you now coming into this new phase where you can be that child that you were not allowed to be before, that you were not able to be before. And it's going to mean the world to you. I'm going to pull tarot now to clarify that. What's coming for our dear listeners. The benefit of all the hard work and the shadow work and the suffering, this one's sticking out, is what it does for your grounding. This is the Queen of Pentacles. She is the most, I'm having a lot of trouble speaking today, and I'm fumbling over my words, and this is reinforcing the idea from the beginning about how this is not going to be something that you can express or that will be expressed to you. It's going to be something that you feel and that you understand, but it's not going to be something that you're going to easily be able to explain to people or that I can explain to you now, but you're going to know the feeling. And that's why you've spent so much time doing all this work to ground yourself, because when you're not fully present and grounded, it's hard to juxtapose yourself with the non-tangible things, with the abstract concepts, with the feelings. So in order to fully embrace and engage with that side, you also have to develop the other side to weigh you down to earth, so that you don't float away, so that you don't lose your mind and have trouble differentiating reality and fantasy, or what's physical and what's emotional. Many of you may have had some sort of traumas that affected your physical body, but they weren't physical traumas. They were emotional traumas that had physical symptoms. Yeah. The Ace of Inspiration. The cactus is behind her neck. Sometimes, unfortunately, the pain is there to open your channel. The pain is grounding, they're saying. I remember Jim Carrey doing an interview for the Grinch movie, and he said how uncomfortable it was to be in that suit, and then the contact lenses hurt and they were like the icing on the cake. And he actually went and trained with a Marine, I think it was interrogator, like somebody who hurts people or who trains people how to endure pain. And he was talking about how localized pain, like if you hit yourself in the leg, I think was the example he gave, it would help focus your mind away from just like the general overall discomfort of a bunch of different things going on, because it gave the mind something to focus on. And that's what I thought of when I see these cacti behind her neck like that. It's almost like you were put in certain situations where you were caused pain because it clarified your mind. And it's really shitty that you had to go through that. However, if this makes sense to you, if this resonates with you, you'll probably have memories where you felt really discombobulated and you had brain fog and you were fuzzy and something hurt you. Could be physical, it could have been emotional, but it was very acute, very pointed, and the focus of that allowed your mind to be clear. It allowed you to move from anger and indignation, and it drove you to get yourself out of the situation, to heal, to find answers, to move away from the generalized pain because of the localized pain. And that's what they're saying. That's what it was for. It was to show you the difference. Look at these little like germy looking things. This looks like germ animations and like vacuum commercials. And they show the little things floating around in the air. Because what comes to you psychically isn't pure. And you had to be trained how to differentiate between good information and bad information. You had to learn how to differentiate what was your intuition and what was fear, what was anxiety, what was other people's doubts that they had put onto you, that they had trained you to be wary of. There's a lot that you can do with the plasticity of children's minds with doubt, by making them second guess themselves, by making them wonder if things are going to work out, by not thinking that they're going to accomplish what they're going to accomplish. If you take away the optimism, and particularly if you take away the confidence in someone's self, they have a very hard time differentiating between things that are divinely guided and an easy path, and then on the other hand, trickery. A lot of people who have been through what you've been through are struggling right now with their messages because of experience, because they think that's not how that works. It doesn't just suddenly become easy. The path just doesn't open up. You don't just start walking and everything moves out of your way. That's trickery. It's deceit. The other shoe will drop. That is poisonous fruit. And they're saying that they gave you so much pain in such a myriad of ways that you are able to distinguish the difference between the stimuli. What's meant for you, what's not meant for you. And that's why they did it. The Four of Emotions in reverse. I like this one because she's sitting in a cup. The fourth cup is where she is. Traditionally, the Four of Cups has a man sitting in front of a tree with the three cups, and there's a hand coming out of the clouds offering him the fourth cup. And it's usually interpreted to mean that you're so focused on what's going on in front of you that you don't see the gifts coming to you. However, in this case, the cup is your existence. The fourth cup is the emotions that she is within, the world that she occupies, and it's the universe. You can see the two faces here mirroring each other with the star in the middle. This is the universe putting you into the situation. And the fourth cup that you're not accepting is your existence. Because someone has sold you this idea of goodness. It's the toxic positivity side of the wellness community. The idea that being fully healed and successful in life is always being happy. The sun is always shining on you. Rainbows are springing out left, right, and center like little puppies trying to lap your legs. And they're saying, you know, that's not what it is. That's not what abundance is. That's not what groundedness is. That's not what beauty is. Now I'm seeing Frida Kahlo in this image. A lot of her art was about the pain that she was in, both physically and emotionally. And she had been a painter before, and she'd been a good painter before. But many of her most famous works come from her pain and her communication and expression of that through her painting. And they're saying a lot of art is like that. A lot of people who do art express themselves and their pain because it's the only way that they can. Telling someone about it is not the same as putting it onto canvas, putting it into a song. Let me see what they want. There's something else they want. Okay. 4 of Voices, 3 of Voices in reverse, the Star in reverse, the 5 of Voices in reverse. It was to open you up. Unfortunately, the fire has to burn away your resistance, your ties to your old karma. They're saying there's a lot of old karma that they had to burn off. And you're free now. This is the colander card. This thing in the back looks just like a colander we had when I was growing up. A pasta strainer. And everything's been washed away now and she's free. This is the 9 of Pentacles. And it was to help you see the beauty that you're sitting in. Again, back to what they said about the 4 of Cups. You're sitting in it. And it's all there because light doesn't exist without darkness. No, there's a little figure here standing on the edge of the pool as your physical self and your higher self. And that goes back to the size difference in the initial cards. All of the different parts of you have come together now, and day's breaking on them. This last message, the 3 that were in reverse, was the suffering from mental health and pain and being trapped, sometimes physically. The Star, who wants to shine, who has been through the tower, who's ready to move forward, whose chakras are open, who's connected to the divine. Because here you're also connected, but it's not fully open. There's still darkness within. This is a fully open channel. And the 5 of Voices is the gift that was taken from you in the form of your identity. I've never noticed this about this card before, but these red beams here are coming out of their eyes and they're crossing. You had a great sadness for a long time that you couldn't lead a normal life, like these people down here in a group, praying, doing yoga. This kind of beatnik looking girl here. You always felt like an outcast. And you suffered a lot. And you had these dreams. You knew that you were always going to be something special. You knew that you were going to be a star. But then your life was like this. And they're saying it was a gift. The fact that you saw the way things were for other people and how different you were. It was a gift because it opened your eyes to the complexity of your situation. I'm not entirely happy with the way this message is going. I don't like that we hurt you because it was helpful. Kind of like he hurts you because he loves you kind of thing. However, that is a large part of the way karma is meant to work, and a large part of the balance of the universe. No one is just completely lucky and blissful. If you see somebody and they seem to just have an amazing life and everything seems to work out for them, the karma came from somewhere. Either it's a gift because they paid off some great karmic debt, either in this lifetime or another, or they're building karma by living like that. And they're gonna have to suffer later because of it. Because the great misconception in the balancing of light and dark is that you can completely exist in the light, and that this is a thing that you can do if you know the right mentality to stay in or the frequency to be in, that you can just always be happy, always be up, always be lucky. And that's not a thing that exists in nature. Everything exists in balance. Every abundance in nature has a limitation. If you see something growing, any kind of population, trees, animals, if something's flourishing, it's going to run out of resources at some point. It's going to attract predators. That's why you have the circle of life, is when one, like say it's gazelles, are doing amazing because the plants are doing amazing. The thing that eats the gazelles is going to also be doing amazing because they're a food source. And the thing that eats the gazelles, let's say they're lions, is also related to the plants that the gazelles eat. Because if the lions don't keep the gazelle population in check, the gazelles are going to decimate their food source, and then they're not going to be doing so well. Everything has balance, and everything has tiers of balance. And when something happens, like if a bunch of poachers come in and take out a lot of the lion population so they can't maintain the gazelle population, nature will rebalance it, because the gazelles will overeat and they'll start to get hungry, and the gazelle population will go down until it's even with the predator population. And that's assuming there's not some sort of natural disaster, which is how a lot of populations change as well. But that was a very long metaphor for how nature balances. No one is absolutely lucky, and no one is absolutely screwed. And for all of the luck or the pain that you have, there will be an equal and opposite balance on the other side. And as I was saying that, I noticed this planet down here, which looks like Saturn. And Saturn is that planet that dictates this karma. It's the Lord of Time and the Lord of Darkness. And it always works where Saturn makes you work hard and learn, and then pays out. And Saturn likes to front load the work so that you understand the contrast. Because if someone comes into life or any situation and it's good, they're not going to conceptualize how good it is if they have nothing to compare it to. And they're going to take it for granted. And they're not going to do the hard work until things start to go downhill. However, if you start out working, and you start out understanding, and you start out conceptualizing how things could be, and then you get there, you have a complete understanding and appreciation for the good that comes. Because you saw what it took to get there. You saw the work that it takes to maintain it, which is important because we're talking generally about a new world order and a new paradigm, and these things take maintenance. You can never just set things in motion and let them coast as a society, because of nature, because of cycles, but also just because people, the generations, the more comfortable they are in their lifetimes, the less they remember and put effort into keeping the structures that they had in place to prevent suffering. And that's what we see now, is people have gotten too far away from suffering. When vaccines first came out, everybody wanted them because everybody had seen what happened to children without them. But now it's been long enough that nobody remembers how many kids were dying before vaccines and how horribly they were deformed from certain diseases like polio. And so nature will remind them. And you have to learn the lessons, and you have to remember the lessons, and you have to implement them continually, and you have to educate, and people have to continue implementing them continually, or the system falls and the predators take over. If the predators take over and they wipe out the gazelle population, the plants do really well, but then the predators have nothing to eat. So the bottom of the food chain comes up until the other populations either recover or something new comes in. And sometimes something new comes in. And we're getting very esoteric with these metaphors, and I hope that I'm not completely confusing anyone who's still here. But that's where we are right now. Is one population has gotten out of control, and everyone else has forgot that everything needs to be kept in check and balanced, because that's how nature works. There is no positive vibes and negative vibes. There's a balance. There's simply a balance, because lions aren't bad, gazelles aren't bad, the grass they eat isn't bad. None of them are good either. They just are. And it's not wrong or good of them to be eaten or to eat or to overeat or to starve. Nature doesn't see good and bad. Nature just sees balance. And that is what it's coming back to. And that's what you came here to do. To see this, to understand this, to have lived this, and to now communicate it in nonverbal ways to others. Because they will be looking for art, they will be looking for healing, and they will be looking for things that aren't words. Because there's so many words now, and they're useless. When everything is words, they mean nothing. But you've come here with a great gift. That's returning to you. You knew in childhood, and you didn't know what to do with it, but now it's coming back to you. They're saying, this is what this was for. This thing you've had in a little egg all this time. And we're bringing it back to you, because now's the time, and you'll understand it, and you'll know how to help other people understand it, so that nature can rebalance the scales. I think that's it for today. It's a little longer than usual, but for those of you that are still here, I hope it helped. I hope it clarified something, or at least you enjoyed it. And I love you all, and I'll see you very soon.